Hello, my name is Shelley, and I'm here to share with you my budget planner for 2022. Habit Planner this year came out with this particular style of notebook called Plans and Notes, which includes a 12-month undated calendar, some dividers, and some plain notebook paper. And I thought that this would be perfect for me to set up my budget. I've tried over the years many different kinds of budgets. I've used formatted ones that had information that I didn't use. I've used other similar to this, but they were spiral bound and there just wasn't enough space in there to do what I wanted to do for my budget. So this came out and I thought, perfect. So let me just show you. I did set this up on camera, but because I've never set one up before, never videotaped for YouTube, this is my first YouTube. My head was in most of the shots, so it really wasn't helpful. But I thought I would still show you how I set it up. So to start with, in the beginning, you get sticker pages to date your calendar. I have not dated all of my calendars yet. I did date my January calendar because I also am a decorative planner and I'm not sure how decorative I'm going to get on my calendars, but because this is January 4th, I need to just start getting my expenses written down because they're backing up. I just went ahead and set up the first January. And then you get, after the stickers, you get a perpetual calendar. I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with my perpetual calendar. I think that I'm gonna use it for things that occur once a year and I can keep track of what bills are due, car insurance, house insurance, that kind of stuff. So the way that I labeled mine is first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. You only get 4 dividers in one of these plans and notes. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out how in the heck I could use this and still have it function for me. So although this is a personal budget, this would be great for anybody that has a business, because my understanding is that businesses often budget quarterly. They have to pay taxes quarterly, and this would be a really great way, if you're a small business, to keep track of your first, second, third, and fourth quarters. So for me, my first quarter, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with this. This is going to be a goals page maybe, but I haven't quite decided. Again, I just needed to get this set up so I can keep track of my bills. And this is my January month. Basically, all I did was put down the month and put down the numbers for the dates for the month. I keep track on here of bills, when they're due, so I know what's coming out at what time, and I can go back and double check and make sure that the auto pay bills that I have auto paid and that I'm getting all my bills paid in time. So that's what I'm doing for my monthly planner. I've also added this dashboard because since there are 3 months in each quarter, I needed a way to be able to quickly go to the month that I'm working on. So that's what this dashboard is for. Then the way I have things set up is I have some stickers and budget stickers, and I have started out with my actual budget. So with this budget, it's got your income, and then for me, I like to keep track of just my bills. There are some systems that keep track of variable bills and fixed bills. For me, sometimes that can be confusing because some bills are considered fixed, but yet they might change slightly month to month. So I like to keep track of just my bills. And then I have flex expenses. And these flex expenses are things that I have a little more control of the spending. So groceries, eating out, gasoline in my car, spending money, and I like to keep track of anything that is unbudgeted, and I do that in my flex expenses. Then this section here, the one thing that I liked, I used the Budget Mom for a while, and the one thing I liked about her pages is it was laid out where you added, where you subtracted. So that was very handy for me. You don't have to think, okay, how do I manage this? So this little section I created to put in the income, and then you minus your bills, you minus your flex expenses, and that gives you the remaining. And then you can allocate that remaining to any other things that you might want to allocate it to, and then whatever's left, usually I put in savings. After that, I go to my weekly flex check-in. So again, these are the expenses that I have the most control over, that I can spend, less than budgeted, easier, but it's also the expenses that I tend to go over. And so I want to keep track of those here. And it's just a weekly check-in. And the good thing about this is, for example, January's got 5 weeks. So the fact that it's in a happy planner where I can remove and add pages as need be, I can easily add an extra page when I have 5 weeks versus trying to squeeze everything in under 4 weeks. Because last time I only had room for week 4, and then I ended up doing week 4 and week 5 together when it was a month that had 5 weeks. After that, these are my expense trackers. So this is whatever I spend money on, I try to keep track of in here. So every day, at some point in the day, I sit down and I go through my credit card, my banking cards, all my accounts that I'm spending money on, and I'm keeping track of my expenses. Now, this is not a running, like a checkbook register. I don't keep track of the balance of my account every day on here. But I do at the end of the month keep track of the categories that I spend in so that I have a clearer picture of how I'm spending my money. Then I have sinking funds. Sinking funds is something that, although seems new, it's a new word over the last few years for me. It's something that I've always done. When I had a bill that was more than 1 month that I could pay in 1 month, I would break it down and put half in the bank, and then the next paycheck I would put the rest of the money in the bank, and then I was able to pay that fund. This is the same concept when you have costs that you know are going to occur, and it's really tough to come up with $600 for car insurance out of 1 month's salary. It's easier if you can split it up into smaller chunks and save for it on a monthly basis. And that's basically what sinking funds are. They're funds that you're saving for that you know are going to be expenses later on in the year, but you want to save for them a small amount at a time. And it's so interesting because when I first started sinking funds, I had a couple of them, but then once you sort of learn the magic of a sinking fund and find how helpful they can be, your sinking fund list grows. So this is the list of the actual funds that I will be saving for, and then this is a sinking fund tracker. So anytime I spend any money out of those sinking funds, I keep track of it over here so that I can balance that account by at the end of the month. And then here is my savings tracker. I found that I have one particular account that has multiple savings in it. So it's a savings account that's got my emergency fund, it's got my sinking funds, it's got multiple savings within that one account. So I decided I needed to keep track of the total amount of that account, but I also needed to keep track of each individual portion that I'm saving in that account, just so I know that if I'm using my sinking funds out of there, that I'm not going into my emergency fund and spending emergency fund money when I don't need to spend emergency fund. This page here is for my budget review. I have struggled with a budget review. I think it's super important to review your budget as a whole and find out where your money is going. The only experience I have had regarding budget reviews, again, was through the Budget Mom. And she has multiple pages that are fabulous pages to help you walk through your budget review. I just found them very repetitive, and I wanted to come up with something that was a much smaller scale of a budget review, but yet that fit my needs. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Since this is the beginning of January, I have to the end of the month to try and sort of figure out what I'm going to do for my budget review. But that's what I plan on putting here. And then my final page is a net worth tracker. I think it's really fun and important to keep track of your net worth. Just because I think you forget when you own something that has a value, that counts, and that you need to be aware that you have that item that has value. So your net worth ultimately is you take your assets, anything that's of value, motorcycles, snowmobiles, cars, houses, artwork, savings account, retirement account, and you keep track of the value of that. And those are considered your assets. And then you have to keep track of your liabilities. So any debt you owe, school loans, credit cards, mortgages, car loans, anything that you owe goes in your liability section. And then when you subtract your liabilities from your assets, that gives you a net worth. So it's basically a monetary value to see where you stand ultimately with all of your assets and liabilities. And it's very interesting to see what your net worth is, because I think a lot of times when we're recognizing that we have a lot of bills, we're recognizing that we have a lot of debt, for those people that say own a home and you've paid on your home for quite a few years, you have to recognize that there's value in the part that you've paid off. Yes, you may still have debt that you need to get paid off, but there is still some value in that home, and I think we forget that sometimes. So it's great to keep track of your net worth. So then that's my first month set up, and then we move on to my second month. So I think this is going to be really helpful. I ended up, after I filled out, I put the lined note paper after every month, so you can see that each month here now has 5 sheets of lined paper behind it. And then we go into the next month. So there was enough lined paper for me to put 5 sheets behind each calendar, and I still had some extra paper at the end. So if I do have months where my expense log, where I keep track of the money that I'm spending right here, if it's a month where, I'm buying a lot of things, a lot of little things, a lot of big things, like Christmas, for example, I needed an extra expense tracker because there were more expenses that I had that month than I normally have. Well, the good thing is I can add more. And if I run out of lined paper in here, I can always buy filler paper from Happy Planner. So I think that this is really going to be helpful for me this year, and I just wanted to share with you guys how I was setting up my budget planner, and maybe the idea of setting up quarters is something that somebody else might be interested in. And thank you so much for watching this video. I plan to do more budget videos. I'm going to come in and fill out the sheets that I've put in here already, and I hope that you come back and watch. Thank you so much. Take care.